First thing, introductions. I'm Steve Long. 8 years experience in training, it's probably 9 now. I own this gym and co-owner of Smart Group Training with Jared Wooliver. I've won a few awards in the 8+ years I've been training, and the gym I have. Author, lecturer, create the Smart Group Training products. Certification and workshop junkie. I think that describes me very well. So I try to go to at least, I bet me and Jared hit up at least 10 to 15 seminars a year. So we can try to learn as much as we can about all the different things in the industry and figure out ways that we can boil that down to simplify it and put it into group training. Because obviously it's a little bit easier to train one person at a time, but once you start getting into 5, 6, 15, 20, then things start getting a little bit crazy. So our goal is to go around to the certifications and workshops and different things, learn that stuff, and put it into our system. Consultant and advisor for schools and organizations, specialize in group training program design and training jacked up clients. I think those are the two things that I do best. Is working with people that have dysfunctions or pain and getting them to be able to train safely and effectively, and then to get those people to also be able to work in group training and not have to be one-on-one personal training. Partner in crime, Jared Wooliver. Also 8+ years of experience in the industry. He is the owner of Complete Fitness Results Edwardsville. We have a location across the river. He's the head of that. And also an author and lecturer. He's our in the trenches teacher. He puts a lot of hours into actually being on the floor, making sure the stuff that we're conjuring up on the couch sometimes is a reality. It's easy to go to a workshop or a seminar and think that it's going to be a good idea, but everything that we do, we make sure that we do it here so we can test it out to make sure it's actually going to work with, not just within these walls, but in every gym across the country. That's our goal or across the world. Whenever we come out with something or have an idea or a blog post, we want that stuff for you guys to be able to implement it. If not, we don't do it. Movement specialist, corrective exercise specialist, sports performance dude, and also a golf performance specialist. So the guy's got some knowledge, and lucky to be able to partner with him to do this kind of stuff for you guys. Our story. So we both started as personal trainers who hated group training. So when I was a one-on-one personal trainer, the thought of doing group training just was like, that is not for me. I am not running around with a bunch of people going, woo, and yeah, good job, and that kind of stuff. That just did not appeal to me as something I was going to do for a living. And honestly, I was like, the training is horrible, so why would I want to do something that's horrible training and look and feel like an idiot at the same time? So group training just never really appealed to me. Or Jared. We kind of started hanging out with some dudes that were doing group training. Basically, this guy, Steve Payne, I don't know if anybody knows Steve Payne. He's in our network. He came up to me and we were talking about group training or boot camps. And I was like, no way I'm doing a boot camp, for the same reason why I just said to you guys. I'm not running around, working out with clients, screaming woo. And he said, I just stand there and drink coffee and watch my people train. And I was like, what? You can do that in group training? And I was like, well, I don't really want to be the guy that just stands there and drinks coffee. I don't want to be the guy who's working out with the clients. There's got to be something in the middle. So we joined a program called Boot Camp Blueprint that was created by Pat Rigsby, who would be here a little bit later, to try to see if there was anything to the group training thing, if we could make things a little bit better. So we became accountability partners, me and Jared. And he had his business, I had mine. And we would basically talk about his business, talk about my business, compare and contrast notes. We would talk on the phone like little high school schoolgirls every night and be like, my business is better than yours, no, your business is better than mine. And basically almost kind of compete against each other. Eventually, we ended up partnering with each other. We always seem to talk about how great boot camp was, but it's just not as good as semi-private. It's just not as good as personal training. It's pretty sloppy, and we weren't really a big fan of it. It became our passion to make boot camp just as individualized as personal training, but much more cost-effective and more fun. So from that passion, that's how Smart Group Training was created. Basically, me and him being competitive against each other, and then just kind of joining forces to really think of ways to incorporate a lot of the benefits of personal training into group training. And luckily, we have an awesome staff here to help make that a reality. So we can see things, if they work or they fail, really fast here, and then be able to get that out. So that's our story. Why we're here today. Today's goals. With every time we do this, we have to have goals that we want to accomplish by the end of it. Our mission with every seminar, I should say right now, some of the slides that are in your manual are going to be different than the slides that are on the screen because I changed it like last night. I always do that. I apologize. I'm that guy. So to make group training as individualized as possible. That's our mission. That's the mission of Smart Group Training. That's what we started out to do, and that's what everything that we do is for, to make the group training, basically group training across the world, more like personal training. Today we're going to explain the 5 elements of individualized group training. Those are the 5 things that I think make group training more individualized. If you're doing those 5 things, you're doing it right. And then create a step-by-step approach to implement the FMS and Smart Group Training into your training programs. So that's what we're going to do today. So let's get into this SGT elements of individualized group training. Number 1, screening and data collection. If you're not assessing, you're guessing. I know you guys have probably heard that before. But at this point, I would say that if you're training clients without some sort of screen on the intake, it's irresponsible. And even if you're training large groups of people. And we would, ever since I started training in like 2005 or 6 or whatever, one-on-one, I was doing a battery of assessments and screens and things like that with my clients, even though I really didn't even know what I was doing. But I just knew that that was the right thing to do. But then suddenly you get a group of people and that just goes out the window. What's up with that? How come just because someone is in a group of people, now their movement and now their blood pressure and now their all the things that we need to know before we train them, their capacity, all these things, it doesn't matter anymore because they're in a class. Well, we don't think that's the case. We think that no matter what you do, if you're training someone one-on-one, semi-private, large group, 100 people in a class, which we don't really do, but regardless of the situation, you should at least have an intake screen to know what you should and shouldn't do with your clients. Shows what you need to avoid, correct, or train. So when we do a movement screen on someone, we're basically going to have 3 situations that we're going to go through. They're going to either have a dysfunction or pain. Well, if they have pain, we avoid. We send them to a medical professional, and we have them look at it, and either they'll tell us, that's jacked up, don't mess with it, or here's what you can do to kind of work with that. So if there's pain in a movement pattern, we avoid it. If there's excuse me. If there's dysfunction in a movement pattern, then we have a decision. We can either avoid it, or we can correct it. We tend to try to correct everything we possibly can, because we know that when we correct something, we give them a higher capacity to be able to achieve the results they came in for. So, pain, we refer out. Movement dysfunction, we correct it. Or it's good, and we train it, and we train it hard. So on the movement screen, that shows us what we can and can't do. And then rescreens, excuse me, rescreens show your progress. So you get an initial screen from someone, you take them through a program. How do you know if you're doing good or bad? We got to rescreen and find out. How come every time I talk, I get one of those things in there? Hold on. It's not nervous. It's just this thing that's like, hey, dude, I'm going to sabotage you right there. Get that in the video, Paulie. So rescreen show your progress, let you know if you, like, there's a lot of times we screen somebody, we have the perfect program for them. We run them through the program, rescreen them, and we're like, maybe not. Because some of their 2s might have went to 1s. Some of their 3s might have went to 2s. We thought we were cool. How do you know? You got to have a screen. It's your criteria to know what you're doing. So types of screens and data collection that you can get. Number one is health history. That's when you sit down with your client with pen and paper. You interview your client, you find out what they got going on. Goals, workout history, what they've been doing before, if they've been doing like curves, if they're doing CrossFit, if they've been doing whatever it is, you want to know what they're doing so you know how to program around that. And that's a verbal screen. Workout history, body composition, postural assessment, blood pressure, grip strength. But functional movements are what we're talking about most today, the movement screens. You want to have as much information as you can, but when we write the programs, we're basing the programs the majority of what we're doing is based on the movement screen. Element 2 is redlining. Some exercises will do more harm than good. So, we know if someone has a movement dysfunction, there's certain exercises that, although they might give the client fitness, they might also cause more dysfunction. So, we don't know what's going to cause fitness or dysfunction until we look at the screen. So once we do get a screen and we see that there's a 0 or a 1 or there's pain or a dysfunction, we know that there's some things we shouldn't do. So red lighting is basically a way of saying that is an exercise that's going to hurt that person or cause them more harm than good. So it's a major part of individualizing group training is making sure they're not doing the bad stuff. And sometimes more than adding a bunch of cool stuff, the best thing you can do is delete the bad stuff. Do you know which of your clients' movement patterns have compensation or dysfunction? Do you know every one of your clients' movement dysfunctions that you have in a group training scenario? Because with the smart group training system, you can easily find out, and you can easily identify that as they're training. You don't have to remember it. You don't have to have sheets of paper and workout cards next to them. We have it down to a science. Do you avoid, correct, or train those patterns? You just having everybody doing the same thing? Or are you breaking it out? It's easy to find out. It takes 10 minutes. I think this is the most important part of the screen. I mean, doing the corrective exercises for the dysfunctions is great because it helps build you up. But building someone up is great. But it's a shame to break someone down. So with the red lighting, you're assured that you're not breaking someone down. And that's why it's such an important part. Custom corrective exercises. So we made sure we're avoiding with the red lights. But when someone has dysfunction on some movement patterns, we want to fix those patterns. So that's when we bring in the corrective exercises. Easy to do in one-on-one, not so much in a group. That's why we have our system. So corrective exercises are meant to correct the compensatory movement and restore the movement to the standards set by your screening and training system criteria, blah, 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 blah. What that, in other words, is easier exercises done well to make harder exercises possible. It's just breaking down an exercise into a lesser version of that exercise all the way down to the level that's appropriate for you. And that could be, say we're talking about a squat. In your group training program design, you could have like a double kettlebell front squat. But if my ankle's locked up, I shouldn't be doing a squat. That's just going to cause hip, back, spine pain. So what we might want to have somebody do at that point is maybe an ankle mobility exercise, or maybe just do a deadlift, you know. But we want to really correct the stuff. So we find out, like, on the screen what exactly is wrong with someone, and then during the warm-up, during the actual exercise portion, we're correcting that stuff. We're fixing it. We're building them up. It could involve breaking down a movement into isolation exercises. It could involve manual therapy. It could involve tissue quality. It could just be a heel lift on a squat. It could be anything. But we just want to set the person up for success and make sure they're not doing anything that's going to hurt them. Element 4 is having multiple exercise progressions. So we see a lot of times, like you can see on the board, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's one exercise written up there. But behind every exercise that we choose for a group training workout, there's multiple progressions there for each client to do. We have workout cards that they can follow that have the progressions listed. But basically, we'll talk about like one exercise progression. If they're red lighted for that exercise, they'll do a corrective or an alternate. And then if they're going to do a harder version, then we will single them out and let them know that they need to do a harder version. We don't have all 5 exercise progressions listed on the board. We'll just have the red light listed and then the go-to exercise of the day. But for everything that we do, there's 3 or 5 exercise progressions and 1 or 2 correctives to help fix the pattern.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, you can.
So I make sure I'm on the right page here. You're saying that you do this in your class?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you'll have 10 people.
Up to 25 people.
Do something, you'll actually, when you pull that person to the side, work with them, and as the rest of the class continues?
That's everything that we're going to be going over this weekend. That's the gist of what we're teaching this weekend, is how to incorporate that into the group training system. Yep. Yeah, we're doing all this with groups of up to 25 people. So, and no one's left behind or doing a red lighted progression this way. We make sure that everyone is on the right part of that timeline within the group training model. So basically, to sum this slide up, not everybody's doing the same thing. Based on the screen, we find out exactly what progressions they should and shouldn't be doing, and they know what they should do based on the system that we have. 5, over-delivering to make group training more individualized. So with one-on-one, once again, you can talk with your clients. You can educate them. You can ask them questions. They can ask you questions directly. You can talk with them their nutrition. You can ask them what they ate yesterday. All those different things. But in a group training situation with 25 people, I mean, how many times have you got done with the class and you just have a line of people waiting to talk to you afterwards? And you're just like, yeah, okay, next. Yeah, next. You know, I mean, it's tough. It's tough to be able to communicate with your clients and give them the information that they need when it's a group. So there's ways that you need to set up your training system or business, whatever it is, to be able to over-deliver to these people, to be able to make sure that they get the same information and the same results as your one-on-one or semi-private clients. So things like nutrition coaching, like group nutrition coaching, like outside of your training scheduled times, or have a dedicated nutrition person on staff. Goal setting, whether it's in groups, whether it's online, whether it's buy a Tony Robbins CD, whatever it may be, you need to make sure that there's some goal setting aspect included into your group training program. Client education. So member websites and articles, blog posts, like print the blog post, put it there for your clients to be able to read it. Talking to them, like just whenever you're teaching a class, just doing a little spiel to the whole class that has nothing to do with the workout. Maybe telling stories, examples, stuff like that to be able to educate them. Off-day workouts, so like on a member's website, you can have like conditioning workouts, corrective workouts, posture stuff. You can write them workouts to do on their own, like if they're on vacation or whatever. You got to make sure you're over-delivering those little extra things to individualize as much as possible. Client events. Just having like a barbecue at your training studio to just get to know your people better and get to talk to them more. Check-in calls, whether it's you or someone on your staff, to be able to just call your clients and just ask them how it's going. Just ask them if they're reaching their goals, if they have any questions. You don't have that opportunity to talk to them all at one time, so maybe just once a month, just call to check in. Even if you don't get to have an elaborate conversation with them, just to know you care. Just to know you care and that you're going to go the extra mile to give them what they need. And then tight business systems. And whether you own a business or you're just in the business of training, you have to have tight systems to make it work. Whenever you want to over-deliver to your people and you want to individualize group training as much as possible. And that's what I think that we've done best, is we've taken all that stuff that we've done to try to over-deliver to our clients and to try to make it as individualized as possible. And we've put it in the systems that make it run easy. Because without the systems and the plans and the people to make it happen, it just gets all it just kind of falls through the cracks. So you got to have good systems, and that's what we've created. That's what smart group training is. It's a group training system that anyone can learn to individualize group training and make it as individualized as possible. All right. So that's kind of the philosophy on why we do what we do and what group training should include. So I would say that if your group training does not have screening, red lighting, custom corrective exercises, multiple exercise progressions, and you're not doing everything you can to over-deliver education to your clients, then people are going to be falling through the cracks. So that's what this weekend is about. Teaching you all these things so you can put those into your training programs right away.